about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
We're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. So how many of you guys have gotten a ticket because a camera caught you? I hate that. I speed, and I used to be able to get out of speeding tickets. You're not supposed to speed, but sometimes 45 miles an hour in a 35-mile-an-hour zone. See, I don't get in trouble for going 90 or 100. I get in trouble near my house for going 45 and a 35, or in my neighborhood. That's just what happens. And I love the opportunity to get myself out of it, talking to the cop, flirting with the cop. But when you get a ticket from a camera, you're kind of out of luck. Now, in order for states to put cameras out there and up there, depending on where you live, in some areas, you have voter control. And I think in Ohio, they're looking at a couple state bills requiring municipal voter approval before adding or changing traffic enforcement camera programs. And what's interesting is there's a lot of people that want the cameras. They think it helps effective safety enforcement. Others fear that it's just a way for, the city to make money. From what I understand, the money, the revenue from tickets don't necessarily fund the police. They go back to the city. And so, because I was thinking, okay, you know what? This is a donation to the cops. And when the cop told me, no, we don't get this money. Well, I'm like, well, then why are you making me pay? I support our cops. But the camera issue is very, very interesting because I'm starting to hear more people want cameras watching them drive. See, when I get to a stoplight, that's when I reapply makeup. I check for boogers. I, get food out of my teeth, and there's a camera staring at me. I don't want to be on camera. But now with CCTV and all sorts of things out there, we're always on camera. There's always something. You walk into a Walmart, you're going to be on camera. And I don't know if it's the way to go. But with AI, with tech, I think we're going to be seeing more of it. Interestingly, I was driving on the Autobahn in Germany. And this was a few years back. And I was with my husband. And he saw all of these cars slow down. And he's like, what the hell? What's going on? Why are they slowing down? I go, maybe there's a cop. Maybe there's an ambulance. Nothing. And then we saw there was a speed. There was digital boards over the highway showing that there was a change in speed. And I was like, wow, the Germans really, they really follow directions, or they follow, and I go, there's got to be something else to this. So then a couple years later, I'm driving with my son, on the German highway, and he says, Mom, I think I just got a ticket. I'm like, did I just miss the cop? He's like, no, I saw a red flash. So they in other countries, they have these systems where people know they're always being watched. And then they automatically slow down. Now, as a physician, I have taken care of too many car accident victims. And many times these accidents that went very, very bad was because of a high speed issue or somebody not following the law. And I hate to say it because I'm really about less government, less authority, get out of my face. But I got to tell you, you give somebody a ticket, like when my son got a speeding ticket, he learned a pretty good lesson. My telling him to slow down, no, but getting a ticket and having to pay and then dealing with the car insurance, that hurt. That was some real negative reinforcement. And so will people drive safer? Will they follow the rules if they know there's a camera? The answer is yes. I know studies are debating it, But, how many times do people in a store say, video surveillance in use? There's cameras. You're going to be on cameras, or there's hidden cameras. So don't mess with us, because we are going to catch you. In fact, there was a string of robberies in this office complex we had about 20 years ago, where what somebody did is they broke in, and then how they broke into all the other offices is they went through the drywall. Now, they didn't get into ours because it was the other side, but my husband's like, we better put up cameras. Now, we didn't have time to get a system and hook it up, but we had a camera. So he put that up there, and then we just never ended up. But I think it staved off people, some patients who were being unruly or flirting and being inappropriate with my staff. We decided, we're going to have a camera staring right at you. So don't go there. But I predict that we're going to see a lot more cities and states, because they don't want cops to be put at risk pulling somebody over and then possibly being, attacked or shot at. Or they need, because they're defunded with all the, horrific calls to defund them, they are so low staffed, and so under recruited that they're like, what, for traffic and speeding, let's just let the cameras handle that. We have the proof, we have the camera, we have the technology. We don't have people arguing with the cop. We don't have our cops being put in harm's way. It's going to be, if your state or city doesn't have it, they're going to. And then you're going to have to follow the rules. And I got to tell you, if you get off a highway after driving 65 miles an hour, and then you're supposed to be going 35, I'm going to tell you right now, a bunch of us could get in trouble. Now, the question people have is, well, are they only going to select? Who do they select? Who do they pick? Who do they target? Or does everybody get tickets? The voters are going to get mad, and they're going to say, no, I don't want this. I don't want to always be caught speeding. I got to tell you, I would go broke, because every day, probably 10 different times a day, I'm going to get in trouble for a California stop, for a not yielding, for not giving the right of way, for speeding, for trespassing, jaywalking. I would just get in trouble all the time. But I don't know what the answer is to stopping speeding and getting people to drive safe. I don't like the idea of cameras, but it could be in your area soon. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. Because we have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. We'll help you find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. If you were hurt in a car accident, truck accident, motorcycle accident, rideshare accident, slip and fall, or any other type of accident, call our 24/7 hotline now and let us help you find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-978-6800. That's 800-978-6800. 800-978-6800. I'm Gina Hart, here with spokesman Jack Mercer. So Jack, tell our listeners who should give us a call right now.
Well, Gina, first off, thank you for having me join you here in the studio. It's always great to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. The call is free, the consultation is free, and with our no-fee guarantee, you pay nothing unless we win you money.
That's great advice. Thanks, Jack. And is it true that the Legal Help Center is open 24/7?
That's right, Gina. We're open anytime you need us, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident of any kind, call now and let us help you find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-978-6800. That's 800-978-6800. 800-978-6800. Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. Not available in California. May not be available in all states.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Spelled Out, DOCTOR, Dahlia. Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So years ago, I did a segment on the power of prayer. As a physician, I keep getting asked, do I recommend prayer? Is prayer scientifically helpful? Do we have statistically significant studies showing that prayer can help somebody in their medical journey? And the answer is abso-flippin'-lutely. See, notice I say flippin'. Absolutely, the power of prayer. I have prayed with my patients. I have recommended they pray. Usually, most of the patients choosing me as a doctor are already praying. They're going, oh God, I'm going to see Dahlia. Lord, help me. So most people walking in are already of faith saying, okay, I need God's help. Look at this woman. She looks like Phyllis Diller on steroids. But prayer is very, very powerful. And there have been some studies. I mean, we don't maybe have a lot of rigorous clinical trials because, if somebody, God forbid, has stage 4 cancer, we're not going to say, you know what? Let's have one cohort just prayer, one chemotherapy, another. We're obviously we're going to be. There's going to be a bunch of variables in that study, but we do have another study saying just 5 minutes of prayer could have surprising health benefits. Just 5 minutes. So according to a study from University of Maryland School of Medicine's Department of Family and Community Medicine, they looked at the effects of direct prayer to the effects of listening to music, and they said that prayer provided greater and more sustained relief for symptoms of pain, for symptoms of anxiety. And what's interesting is we have a lot of studies with music. We also have studies with cuss words. Those individuals who curse will have less pain. Not in general, but they did a study of fraternity. We talked about this. They did a study of fraternity boys, and they had them stick their hand in ice, a bowl of ice. Not the safest thing to do. But those who were able to cuss lasted longer than those who were not allowed to curse. Or cuss. So that was pretty fascinating. But going back to this with prayer, according to Jesse Bradley, the pastor of Grace Community Church in Washington, told Fox News that prayer is powerful and beneficial on many levels. Prayer is most commonly used form of complementary medicine in the United States. 43% of Americans rely on it. They say the researchers focused on a practice known as proximal intercessory prayer, PIP, defining as in-person, face-to-face prayer directed toward another individual's well-being. They recruited 180 adult patients from a family medicine waiting room. You're like, only 180 were in the room? I know that's a light waiting room from what I've seen, but they got 180. All participants had previously reported experiencing moderate to severe pain, anxiety, or both. Following their standard medical appointments, the patients were randomly assigned to one or two groups. The prayer group, in which participants receive 5 minutes of in-person Christian prayer delivered by a trained volunteer, and the music group, where they spent 5 minutes listening to music. They said the researchers then tracked changes in the participants' self-reported pain and anxiety levels at multiple intervals immediately after the 5-minute session at 2 weeks and at 6 weeks. The doctor running this, Catherine Jacobson, said it was very well received. 97% of participants said they were neutral or supportive when asked about having this kind of prayer available as part of their medical visits. The study, and it's free. It's free. I know there's like a Hello app. I don't know how much it costs to use that, but prayer, it's free. The study was published in the Annals of Family Medicine, and it revealed that while patients in both groups showed improvements, those in the prayer group reported substantially greater relief. All right, so daily prayer. These are, it doesn't have to be a particular prayer. It could be Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Protestant, LDS, Hindu, Buddha. But what we believe happens is how it affects your cortisol, because people always ask, what is the medical, what is the scientific reasoning for this? Well, one is I think, God is a part of science. So that's the first thing I go to. But also, they do believe it's linked to the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which lowers your stress, lowers your cortisol levels. And in a way, it's like meditation. And we've been using meditation, and that's been a part of complementary and alternative medicine for centuries. And so we think that it relaxes you, it allows you to refocus, it connects you to God. And, I have atheist patients, but many of them have a go-to, have some sort of a spirituality. It might not be to God, but they have, and that focus allows them, where they're focusing their attention away from, the pathology, helps. Now, have I, as a doctor, seen somebody's cancer cured? I've seen people go into remission, and every one of them said they prayed, but I can't use that as science. The one case that I feel is more than anecdotal, okay, because we have witnesses, is I had a patient that broke multiple ribs. And she came in and I x-rayed her and she was in a lot of pain. And when somebody breaks ribs, it is the one condition we are very liberal on as it pertains to pain control, because if you break a rib and the rib didn't puncture a lung or anything like that, you won't die from a rib fracture, but you could die from pneumonia because you can't take that deep breath. You're like, ow, ow. So you only do shallow breaths. If you do shallow breaths, things get settled in there and you could get pneumonia. And so we want you to still take big deep breaths. Well, how do you do that when you fractured multiple ribs and you're in a lot of pain? So she was in a lot of pain. I made sure she had good pain control, but not too much because we don't want her overdosing. And a few days later, she goes to church. Now, most rib fractures take at least 6 weeks to heal, and then some. So she goes to church, and she tells the pastor what happened. So the pastor said, come up here, and he asked everybody to pray, and then he put his hands, like, over the ribs, where the ribs were, and she said she was pain-free. She comes to my office 2 days later and says, because I have her follow up because I want to watch for pneumonia. And I think this was, probably a Tuesday after a Sunday. And she's like, I'm in no pain. And okay, how many pills did you take lately, sister? She's like, no, here's my bottle. I'm like, okay, that's really, really good. And I do believe in the power of prayer. Well, let's take a look. Let's see if I'm starting to see some union and some bone growth. So we x-rayed her again. Still, multiple rib fractures. Because we had x-ray in the office, because I like to look at my own x-rays. And she said, look at me. And she's moving around, taking big deep breaths. I go, you go, girl. You keep going back to church and you keep doing that. I don't have any other scientific explanation. But what now? People say, well, pain is perceptive. It's your brain. And, maybe you're able to manipulate or whatever. Fine, manipulate the hell out of me. Because I wake up every day with hips and knee and plantar fasciitis. And I pray a lot. And I do credit my prayer to my not being in pain. But sometimes there's only so much you could do. You have an amputation, you have, post-herpetic neuralgia, spinal stenosis. But I've seen that with that patient. I can't explain it. She was like, I don't know, like a 60-year-old woman. Because all I cared about was her not getting pneumonia. Then okay, well, that's a fluke. She was high. No, she wasn't high. She came in the following week because I would see them every week. Lungs sounding good. She taking deep breaths. She not being in pain. So I'm not telling you to pray if you're an atheist. I'm not telling you to go and pray if you're not very religious. But, when the power of prayer cannot be overestimated, right? And it's underestimated. And I really do believe that for those individuals who want to, and I did have a patient who had a severe lung disease, and he went to the hospital. I decided this was Thanksgiving. After Thanksgiving dinner, I went to go visit him. I know you guys are thinking of trying to get away from the family. Yeah. But I was like, let me go see him. He's Thanksgiving. He's alone. He's in the hospital. And he's sitting there next to me. And he said, I'm not going to be leaving this hospital. And I go, yes, you are. You have a family that's waiting for you. He said, Dahlia, I'm not. I go, do you want to pray? Do you want to pray? He goes, no, I'm ready to go. He actually died later that night. He had a long standing COPD. And he actually, when he was talking to me, he was really calm. And I didn't, and even though I've learned as a medical professional that when somebody says they're going to die, they are. But he was really calm and he was breathing fine. So I'm like, no, look at you. Your sats are good. You might have to go home on some oxygen. He's like, he knew. So I really do believe, and it's really hard as a scientist and going through so much science to get to where I am, in my career. I really do believe that there's huge power of prayer. And so for those of you that are of faith, take advantage of that. And for those of you who aren't, find something that you could focus on that lowers your cortisol, helps you relax, and gives you your compass. The 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So I don't like rumors. I don't like conspiracy theories. But this was a very, very interesting development in science. And even Snopes looked into it going, okay, this is true. Apparently there were some researchers at Western Michigan University that had written a paper in bioethics as it pertains to meat eaters and alpha-gal syndrome, which is spread by the Lone Star tick, which actually it's can induce an allergy and alpha-gal syndrome in somebody who eats meat if they get bit by this tick. Remember we talked about this very life-threatening meat allergy that some people could get, which frightens me because I love meat. And apparently they had said, look, it might be morally obligatory to engineer ticks that propagate this if we find it immoral for individuals to be eating so much meat. Now, I'll read to you a summary or an abstract from this paper. But I know I did a double take going, okay, no. We are not going to do anything in science to hurt people. But this is exactly what I predicted we're going to eventually see with AI, where you pose to them a problem. Like, what do we do about food poverty? What do we do about us not having enough food or cattle shortage? And AI may say, well, why don't you make people allergic to eating meat so they eat less meat? I hate to think, humans are also thinking the same thing, but I'll give credit where credit's due. But let me recap here what's going on. So this is a philosophy paper called Bioethics. And the paper was not necessarily a policy recommendation, but a quote unquote philosophical exercise. And, there's been many researchers trying to figure out how do we address the Lone Star tick population, which is increasing cases of alpha-gal. And we'll talk about that in a second. And so the authors say the following. All right, now this comes from Bioethics. The article is called Beneficial Blood Sucking. And they say that the bite of the Lone Star tick spreads alpha-gal syndrome, a condition whose only effect is the creation of a severe but non-fatal red meat allergy. They say public health departments warn against Lone Star ticks and AGS, and scientists are working to develop an inoculation to this. Herein, we argue, this is what they said, and this is Parker Crutchfield and Blake Harris. All right. They argue that if eating meat is morally impermissible, then efforts to prevent the spread of tick-borne AGS are also morally impermissible. Okay. That's frightening. After explaining the symptoms of AGS and how they are transmitted via ticks, we argue that tick-borne AGS is a moral bioenhancer if and when it motivates people to stop eating meat. We then defend what we call the convergence argument. If X-ing prevents the world from becoming a significantly worse place, doesn't violate anyone's rights, and promotes virtuous action or character, then X-ing, which is just a random act, is strongly pro tanto, obligatory. Promoting tick-borne AGS satisfies each of these conditions. Therefore, promoting, this is what they're saying, okay? I'm not lying. I'm reading this to you guys. This is ridiculous. They say, therefore, promoting tick-borne AGS is strongly pro tanto, obligatory. I got a pro tanto for you. It is presently feasible to genetically edit the disease-carrying capacity of ticks. If this practice can be applied to ticks carrying AGS, then promoting the proliferation of tick-borne AGS is morally obligatory. You have people in the sciences that are advocating killing meat eaters. I'm a meat eater. Are you flipping kidding me? Really? Because you don't think my eating meat is morally obligatory? What else are they going to think is not morally obligatory? Sex and having children? Well, what you're doing is you're causing climate change with your babies. And you're going to increase world poverty and the food crisis and world hunger because you're having babies. So you're going to infect me with something to sterilize me? Where do they get off being moral obligatory experts? I mean, this is shock. And this I think was back in July of 2025. Parker Crutchfield is from the Department of Medical Ethics, Humanities, and Law, West Michigan University Homer Stryker MD School of Medicine in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Blake Harris is of the Department of Medical Ethics, Humanities, and Law, Western Michigan University Homer Stryker MD School of Medicine. I'm kind of blown away by this. Alpha-gal syndrome is potentially life-threatening. If you get bit, it triggers your immune system. It's a molecule called galactose alpha-1,3 galactose. So that's what alpha-gal is, because it's hard to say galactose alpha-1,3 galactose. It's naturally produced by the bodies of most mammals, but not in people. It's found in the saliva or spit of some ticks, hence it's foreign to us. When a tick bites, it could transfer this alpha-gal from its saliva into a person's blood. Remember the suck-blow mechanism we talked about, where they have to give you an anesthetic, otherwise you feel it on you. This way they take time to feed, because as soon as you feel it, you're going to flick it off. So they have to blow before they suck. They have to blow the anesthetic into you before they feed. And in that process, that's how you could get this alpha-gal. The body that is used to this alpha-gal treats it like allergic reaction. 110,000 suspected cases have been identified between 2010 and 2022, and we think they're going up. In fact, the actual number they think could be close to 500,000. And so healthcare providers, if they think you're allergic to it, recommend you avoid red meat like beef, pork, lamb, venison, rabbit, dairy products. Even some medications could unfortunately put you at risk. The black-legged tick, or a Western black-legged tick, they call the Lone Star tick, and the Lone Star tick are the ones associated with this. And so we could identify it and we could test you for this. But unfortunately, an allergic reaction could cause anaphylaxis, shortness of breath, and death. So we're looking at these researchers who don't want you to eat meat. Now, mind you, I respect our vegetarians and I respect our vegans. I think that's very, very cool. And I do love animals. And I adopt animals and I care for animals. And I understand that being a carnivore or an omnivore, I'm sorry, we humans are omnivores because we eat plants and animals. I understand being that, a plant has to die to hurt us. And an animal has to die to feed us. And, plants, I don't eat a lot of vegetables. I try to. But the reason why is our plants produce oxygen. If I'm trying to help the climate, there's an argument to not be picking the vegetables and eating them and let them continue to do photosynthesis and produce more oxygen. I mean, you see where we could take this conversation and we could, listen, I'm not proud of the fact that I eat meat, but I don't deserve to be put into anaphylaxis. And in public health, we are not supposed to advocate hurting. And I understand they're not making this as a recommendation. I don't know how this paper got through without the media finding it. Now everybody's talking about it. But it's disgusting to think that our fellow humans feel that they are morally obligatory judges and that they want to advocate for pain and suffering of other fellow humans. They have no business in their jobs. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. Because we have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. We'll help you find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. If you were hurt in a car accident, truck accident, motorcycle accident, rideshare accident, slip and fall, or any other type of accident, call our 24/7 hotline now and let us help you find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-978-6800. That's 800-978-6800. 800-978-6800. I'm Gina Hart, here with spokesman Jack Mercer. So Jack, tell our listeners who should give us a call right now.
Well, Gina, first off, thank you for having me join you here in the studio. It's always great to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. The call is free, the consultation is free, and with our no-fee guarantee, you pay nothing unless we win you money.
That's great advice. Thanks, Jack. And is it true that the Legal Help Center is open 24/7?
That's right, Gina. We're open anytime you need us, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident of any kind, call now and let us help you find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-978-6800. That's 800-978-6800. 800-978-6800. Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. Not available in California. May not be available in all states.
Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc-A-Dolly, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Well, schools have changed. They're really different from when I went to school. And I went to 12 schools. And I was in multiple school districts. So I got to kind of witness a lot of the way things were. And it was very interesting how in a couple of the school districts, they spanked. Whew, I would get a spanking. I got a dunce cap. I think I was just at the tail end of the dunce cap days where the teacher would publicly humiliate you by saying you need to sit in the dunce cap. I got in trouble a lot, not because of bad grades. I got very good grades, but I was class clown. And, I didn't have the looks. I couldn't get boys' attention. And I had crushes on boys early on. And so I remember in the first grade, I had 3 boyfriends. First grade. And I remember kissing Billy on the lips. I didn't like it because he was very slobbery. And I don't know why I was I was not a hoochie mom. I just for some reason really liked hanging out with boys, and I just liked kissing boys. And but to get boys' attention, I wasn't that cute like some of these other kids. And so I would get their attention by comedy. And when you make the whole room laugh, the boy turns around to see who just made me laugh. And it worked for me for many years. And so I would get in trouble for these one-liners, jokes, and, helping the boys cheat. Like, oh, I need help. Can I look off your paper? Of course you can. Right? So I made sure I was really smart. So I would attract these boys to want to copy off my paper. So I got myself into trouble a lot. And, they would spank us. I would lose recess. Didn't do a lot of detention. And I found that fascinating because everybody and their mother seemed to get detention, but I didn't get detention a lot. And I think the reason why is they thought I would disrupt the detention. I did have to clean the chalkboards. I had to write, I will not disrupt the class like 100 times, which, by the way, I think is an excellent punishment. Not on the chalkboard, because I don't know how much chalk I breathed in. Although I really do miss the feel of chalk, how smooth that was. A nice, new, crisp stalk of chalk. But then it would crack and break. And then the eraser making it go away. I love chalkboards. Dry erase is cool, but nothing like you need to dig that chalk into the chalkboard. But I think really good punishments in school wasn't the spanking. The spanking was ridiculous. Dolly, come up here, time for your spanking. And then you're giggling, right? And then everybody's like, oh man, she has to get spanked. You got to sit there and that was ridiculous that would happen. But I would always think it was funny because, the spankings and the whoopings and the belt I would get at home was nothing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like getting cotton candy for free. I mean, compared to, what you got at home. So it was ridiculous. But the effective punishments, I think, were, okay, you need to write this out 1,000 times. I will not disrupt the class. I will not interrupt the teacher. I will not say foul language. Did it work? No, I still do say foul language, but it's productive. There's some productiveness with that. Well, nowadays teachers are they're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. If they punish one child and not punish another, they could be accused of discrimination. If they try to restrain somebody that's hurting another child, they could also get into trouble. If they do try to call out somebody, they could be accused of public humiliation. And it's the guidelines now are kind of varied between schools. And I get, as a parent, you don't want your child singled out. You don't want your child bullied. And I've had teachers where they just didn't like me. They just didn't like me for one reason or another. But I'm not going to guess as to why. But you could guess there's probably a few reasons. But they just didn't like me. Probably a big part of it is because I would interrupt them in class and I was funnier than they were. But there's ways that you could address those. And now teachers are unsure what to do. If somebody's not paying attention to you and they're on their phone, do they take the phone away? Or are the parents going to be mad that you took away that child's mode of communication? Do they have you skip recess? A lot of parents don't like kids skipping recess. They want kids getting the physical activity. They think recess helps their attention and mood. They don't want their kid not having recess and being stuck in a room and not being able to socialize with the kids. I remember, parents would say, you go to bed without any supper. Now, I hated my mom's cooking. And every night I would get in trouble because I didn't want to eat my mom's cooking. I begged for that rule to be in my house. You go to bed without any supper, because I would have loved to leave and not eat. But unfortunately, I had to sit there and eat her food, and I mean, I'm sorry, I love my mom, but she was a horrible cook, and I really didn't like her cooking at all. And so, but we don't do that anymore because we want to make sure they eat. And so, where do teachers go in terms of disciplining kids? Now, I taught Sunday school. I've taught younger kids. I taught medical students. With medical students, I would do some old school. I remember, just lecturing, and one of the guys was talking with another one on his laptop. I go, "What you got there? You want to share it with us? Looks a little bit more interesting than what I'm talking about up here." And he said, "Yeah, I'm putting some bets down on the up game." And I go, "Oh, wait, what are the odds?" And then, oh, okay, you know what? You have a pass. Then we had another student who fell asleep. I'd wake him up. I'm like, "Are you with us? Wake up. You got to learn this stuff." And maybe people didn't like that, but that's all I had to do. And they knew not to fall asleep in my class. Right? Of course, what am I lecturing on that put them to sleep? But a lot of people had jobs. I mean, I worked in medical school, so I get that. But, there's a way to do it and still promote respect. If somebody's not listening, you could talk to them and say, "Look, what I want to make sure you get this information." And I understand, because I didn't pay attention in class also. Well, I have ADD and the Americans with Disabilities Act protects me. And I go, "Look, I'm not doing anything to you. You're good, but you're not in trouble. But your test scores aren't that good. And so what do I do? What do you need from me to help ensure that you pass and you do well on these tests, especially if I can't keep your attention in class?" And so you work with them. And I put a lot of after hours in with my teaching. It wasn't, okay, 3 p.m., I'm out of here. People were in my office till 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. Students would call me on the weekends. I would review their stuff on the weekends, their homework, their assignments, just because that just, I just really loved my students. I had 180 of them. It's a lot of students, but I wanted to make sure they succeeded. And I did that because I don't think the regular protocols are the way to go. And if you're teaching grade school, if you're teaching middle school, I mean, I taught fourth grade Sunday school. Fourth graders are fun because they start getting sassy. They got some comedic timing, but I had to draw a fine line because I thought one of the parents was going to, really kind of, spank the kid. And so I didn't want to always call the parent. So I had to handle some things on my own. But I don't think the schools really kind of have it down yet as to what the best way to discipline a child is. They need to work on that. 1-877-Doc-Dolly.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by financial fitness show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.